This is part 4 of our study called The Two Trees, and we're looking at Genesis chapter 2 in this study. And we've talked about the obligations, the benefits of the commands that God gave to Adam. And today we're just going to talk about some objections that might come up when we're talking about this. One of them is, why did God put the tree of the knowledge of good and evil in the garden in the first place? Was he trying to tempt Adam to sin? That's a good question. Remember that God never tempts anyone to sin. The Bible clearly states that. Satan is the tempter. And we'll see his handiwork coming up here in chapter 3. For Adam, a command given by God did not bring temptation to sin, unlike us. He did not know sin or think with a sin-damaged mind. Because our corrupted minds, when we hear a command of God, we are tempted to break it. Paul explains in Romans, "For I would not have known what it was to covet if the law had not said, 'You shall not covet.' But sin, seizing an opportunity through the commandment, produced in me all kinds of covetousness." So that's the problem with us. We're thinking about, or we're putting ourselves in the place of Adam with a sin-corrupted mind, and we don't know what it would have been like for Adam. I don't think we can even guess. And so, to be Adam without knowing sin, without having experienced sin, without having a sinful nature and inclination to always sin, to always be selfish and prideful and all those kinds of things that plague all of us, to be given a command by God to say, don't eat this tree, it wouldn't have been that big of a deal. The temptation just by commanding and saying that was not that big of a deal. I mean, God could have put only one tree in the garden and said, don't eat from anything else, and it still would have been the same temptation. It wasn't really there. So I don't think that's a problem with God doing that. Obviously, God's going to use that tree for his purposes and for his glory and to bring about the salvation of people and to bring about the Redeemer, to bring Christ into the world to be mankind. So there's all of that. So that leads us to the question, wouldn't it have been better not to put the tree in the garden at all? Why even put the tree there? What's wrong with God? Why would God do that? You probably heard this objection before. But the problem with this objection is that it assumes that we have the right to judge God. We, a finite, sin-damaged creature, believe that we can make a judgment call on what is good and on what is right, what is better for the universe. We are better at saying, that's what we're saying is we are better at saying what is good. We know better than what God knows. Can we really say that? I mean, a couple times in the Bible, it uses the imagery of a lump of clay and a potter. And can the lump of clay say to the potter, it would have been better if you would have put the handle there, or you would have put the indentation here, or you would have done that, or you would have straightened that out a little better? Does the clay have the right to say that? Now, yes, I know. We know things. We have brains. We make judgment calls. We understand things. But, it's only because we have been granted that ability by God. And we must admit that our ability to judge is fallible because we don't have all knowledge. And we've been corrupted by sin. Only God can do what is always right. And it was right for the tree of the knowledge of good and evil to exist. I mean, our knowledge compared to God's is so small. I've heard people object to the analogy of the potter and clay representing us because, the clay's inanimate, it doesn't know anything, blah blah blah, and we know things, we can understand things, we can talk to God, we can figure things out. That's true, but God's knowledge is infinite and has always had all knowledge. He's never learned anything. We, on the other hand, have such a small knowledge. I have no idea what's going on the other side of the world. I don't even know what's going on in my neighbor's house. God knows all that, and he's able to see the beginning from the end. So if he says something is good and right, and he's the one that defined what those things are, I think he was more than able to figure out what was up with the tree of knowledge of good and evil, right? I think he could figure that out. And how do I have the right to judge? To even assume that I could judge is insanity. It truly is.